Hello and welcome to this edition of FOF Live presented by La Pop. That's LAPOP as we are here to preview this upcoming four-game series between the Marlins and the incoming Pittsburgh Pirates. But before we get into the last series, let's introduce the panel for everyone here tonight and our very, very special guest. First up, we have I almost said Elon Musk. My head was somewhere else. Eli Sussman. We have Alex Krutchuk and our special guest. He is currently talking to Pat Riley on ways to get Victor Wembanyama onto the Miami Heat. He is wheeling. He is dealing. It is Mr. Takes Were Made. Let's bring him on here. Takes. How's everything going? And is Victor Wembanyama coming to the Heat? Ooh.
He's here. His camera's here. His audio settings aren't here.
Uh-oh. Pat Riley's onto him now.
He's getting the call.
He's getting the call from Sixto. Sixto for Wembanyama.
Let's see. Can you hear us? No.
Hello?
Oh.
Hello?
Yes,
yeah.
We got you. Yes. Oh.
Yes?
Yes.
We hear you.
We hear you.
It's a sack of shit. Sorry if I can't curse.
No, you can curse. You're all good.
That's right. I forgot you guys aren't affiliated with the others anymore.
We were just asking, does Wembanyama get drafted to the Heat tonight? What are your sources?
No, absolutely not. We don't draft anyone tonight. We trade all our picks for Dame.
All right, we're gonna trade Dame. We're gonna get 18th pick, trade Hero, trade Kevin, and our next 3-round picks for Wembanyama. For Dame. Yeah, it's great to have you, and let's get ready to talk about the Pirates' 4-game series. The Marlins are hot. The Marlins are 9 games over. Pirates have lost 9 games in a row. But before that, let's talk about the series before, where the Marlins did fall 2-1 against the Toronto Blue Jays, and after firing off hot, scoring 11 runs in the first game, they just totaled 3 runs in the next 2. Eli, what did you see from this series? Who impressed you? Who didn't? And was this maybe a little cause of concern? Marlins scoring 11 and then 3 the rest of the way.
I don't recognize this team because they outscored the Blue Jays in the series and yet lost the series. It's been the other way around all year long, right? With the run differential where they get outscored by all these series and they somehow figure out a way to come up on top. So this is very uncharacteristic of them. It seemed to be the other way around. All things considered, it didn't go all that differently than I expected. Yuri was even a little more amazing than I thought. And Sandy, that bad ending of his that always happens, it was a little bit more awful than I thought. And so that's kind of the small margins of difference between winning and losing those latter 2 games. But other than that, it was like Luis Arraez doing what he has been doing what nobody has really been doing in baseball for at least 15 years, since like later day Chipper Jones. And aside from that, they faced a team that was probably a little bit more desperate than they were to win the series, because the Blue Jays have been underperforming relative to expectations. And they they got it done. So it's really that middle game that they're probably kicking themselves over most of all, to not get any runs across in that one. For the only runs to come across against Tanner Scott, who'd actually been lights out for the better part of a month and a half. That middle game is the one that really could have gone either way. And so that's the one that's a little bit disappointing.
Yeah, and takes. We will get to the other games, but on the one that's most recent to everyone, Sandy Alcantara started off horribly, giving off 5 runs in the second inning, but then just coasted his way through to the 7th. But still, the Marlins were not able to get anything on board. 5 runs, just way too many. We also saw this in Oakland, now Toronto. What's wrong with Sandy, and is there even a thought to do to him what the Blue Jays did to Alek Manoah?
The what's wrong part, you're asking the wrong guy. I'm more, obviously there's something wrong. I think we all agree on that. I'm not smart enough to tell you what is wrong, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can tell you for sure he's getting like blasted in these innings, right? It's not like an Edward Cabrera situation where he's just like walking a lot of people. Like, no, he's throwing strikes. He's just not when you're a contact pitcher like Sandy, right? I mean, you have to live on the edge of the zone, right? You got to be able to give up what he was good at was the weak contact. And it's just he's getting pelted. Like it's not just like like bloop singles. Like Tanner Scott, his last outing, he gave it like 2 bloop singles in the game that we lost 2-0. And I was like, I'm not upset at Tanner Scott for giving up like a bunch of bloop singles. Like that's just the way the game goes sometimes. But Sandy's getting demolished. Okay, like he like in that 1 inning a game, he's gonna get bent over and destroyed, and then he's gonna go out and pitch like a Cy Young candidate for the rest of the game. And it's frustrating, obviously, for us, but I know that for him as well. I made the joke like a month ago that I can't wait for Craig Mish to come out and tweet like nobody's more frustrated than Sandy and all of this. And I'm sure he is. Like that's the type of guy he is. And I love Sandy to death. It hurts me to have to slander him, but that's the guy I am. I will step up and slander anyone. And, I want him to get it together. I hope he does. But like when it happens this much of like it's last year every 5 days Sandy was going to come out, give 7, 8, or 9 innings of like 1-run ball. This year he's going to come out and give 7 innings of 5-run ball that comes in 1 inning, and it's just going to be frustrating because for that inning you're going to want to wring his neck, and then he's going to come out and just like even when he gets destroyed, he's efficient. Like it's the funniest thing on earth because he's getting clobbered, but yet he's still going like 7 innings, which is more than like what other pitchers on our rotation are giving us. So I hope he can turn it around, man. But I don't know what he does at this point. It does seem like kind of like a Yip situation where he's just throwing meatballs down the middle and guys are just sitting on it. Someone threw out the possibility that he's tipping pitches. To me, the loony ones are the guys that are like, this is all Stallings' fault somehow. And it's like, guys, come on. Like, it's not like I don't like Stallings and I want him playing for the Doosan Bears as much as anyone else. But like, we can't pretend like it's just him that's making Sandy bad at pitching. Like it's Sandy needs to the Alek Manoah possibility. I don't think it is because, yesterday I had a tweet about the depth of our pitching and it's not what it used to be. And it's like, what do you do? Like, would I rather see Devin Smeltzer than Sandy? Like, no, I wouldn't. Like, at least Sandy's giving me 7 innings of 5-run ball. Devin Smeltzer's going to give me like 90 pitches by the 2nd inning, and we're going to be down like 8-0. So, no, I'd rather see Sandy, but it is very, very concerning because I never thought that he would be the guy that's costing us games when we're 9 games above 500 this far into the season.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there's my tweet.
The one thing I wanted to bring up on this is that the only splits that's like consistent with him is that when somebody gets on base, when anybody gets on base, that's when the game really flips on him and he has those bad innings. With bases empty this year, hitters are hitting 187, a 559 OPS. They're hitting like Stallings when the bases are empty. And then when men are on, they're hitting 364 with a 910 OPS. When anybody gets on base, those splits are like, I can't even begin to explain those. They're nothing even like last year where he was the same guy regardless of situations. And here, it just snowballs on him so rapidly in those 1 innings at a time. And that's kind of the only consistent with like all these struggles.
When I hear that, the first thing I think of is that it's like something mental. Like you can't just be that good of a pitcher and then when someone gets on base, you suck. You turn into like Jose Urena. Like I just don't think that's like possible. So it makes me think it's a mental thing where maybe he probably has heard this stat. And when someone gets on base, he's like, all right, don't give up a hit. And that's probably not the mentality you want to have when you're like a pitcher in the major leagues. You don't want to pitch to not give up a hit. You want to pitch like you own the person you're pitching to. So I don't know if that's what it is. Sandy's always been kind of like the alpha male leader of the locker room. So it's hard for me to imagine that all of a sudden he just like quivers at the slight of any pressure. So I don't know. It's very concerning and I need him to get back on track. And we look alike. He's my twinsy. So.
And yesterday in the clubhouse after the game, he mentioned extremely briefly just the idea of the clock. And he didn't blame the clock, but it was the first time all year that I remember in which he even mentioned the clock, specifically after someone had asked him, what is it about guys on base that you seem to be struggling with? And he said, I don't know, maybe the clock. And then he just kind of moved on from it, and that was it. It was the first time I had heard him mention that all year. And it was kind of interesting to hear because there are pitchers around the league that said during spring training, that the runners get an advantage not just because of the pickoff rule, but also because of the clock. You can kind of time down when you think the pitcher is going to throw. So maybe there is something to it. Maybe there is something to whether he truly admits it or not, that the clock is helping runners out against him more than any other pitcher.
Yeah, with Sandy, I don't want to be the one to say this or anything, but as the host, to give out these scenarios, questions. Is there anything at all, Sandy? Do you option him at all? Maybe get him down, give him a couple innings at least for his mind to get ready. The Marlins are hot. They're they're playing the Pirates. They're after that, you have some easy wins, easy teams going into the All-Star break. Is that even a realm of possibility at all?
I need to clarify that at this particular moment, they can no longer do that. Unfortunately, it's more than 5 years of major league service at this point. So he cannot be sent down unless he agrees to be sent down. So that's what makes it different from an Alek Manoah situation. Manoah, earlier in his career, they can do whatever he wants when he has lost his way. So with Sandy, and I just don't think he's quite that far away from being effective, because we see it in the vast majority of his innings. He is similar to the guy he was last year. And it's just those brief moments in almost every single start that put him sideways. He's just going to have to work through it, just because if nothing else, those innings that he provides still have some value. He is still on pace to throw 200 innings, even 200 below league average innings. That still makes a big difference for a team that is relying a lot on its bullpen, and they can't afford to rely even more heavily than they are right now.
Yeah, because as bad as it was yesterday, I think they only used 2 relievers off the top of my head. And that's great going into now a 4-game series where you have no off days for a little while. The other thing, kind of just jumping on the, what could it possibly be? Could it be a secret injury that he's not telling anyone about or the team's not telling anyone about? The fact that he is throwing so well other than the 1 inning in most of his starts tells me that it must not be an injury, because he's obviously I don't want to say obviously. He seems to be physically fine, because if he wasn't physically fine, the velocity would be down. The spin rate would be down. He wouldn't be able to get through these games, but he is getting through these games, and 90% of the game looks the same as it did last year. So it's still in there. Which makes me think that it's not an injury. It's either he is tipping his pitches or it is all mental, where guys get on base and he, has a mental issue there.
Yeah. It could be an array of things there with Sandy, and we will go back to that in the other games. But now we do have intern Nick here from the press box. Can be Isaac because he's too busy buying black shirts. He has to go a new rotation for next week. But we do have intern Nick in the press box, way better looking than Isaac. I will tell you that right now. With Isaac, Nick, how's everything looking at the press box? The Pirates, Reynolds to the IL, the Marlins. How's everything looking?
Yeah, so it looks all good out here. It's feeling good. It's a good day to be here. But yeah, so the Reynolds news, just came out. Started learning about that. Didn't get that directly. I just saw that online and everything. But we talked to Skip and everybody before the game. And Skip, we got the injury report first. I'll go over that. Got the injury report. There was nothing really too special about the injury report besides Jazz is playing again. Only 7 innings, he said. That's not a planned 7 innings no matter what. He's coming out after 7. And then Cueto starting. Besides that, there was really nothing too special. And I know Gene Segura he was running sprints earlier, and he took BP, and he was taking ground balls. So he was doing plenty of activity there. But besides that, that's really about it. And then we talked to Skip, and Skip really got into kind of going against the Pirates. I know he was talking about they're a hot and cold team, but you just got to really always be ready. And then he also talked about all-stars, knowing that we have Horizon Soler. But he was kind of hyping up the bullpen, talking about the bullpen, and then really talking about Braxton Garrett, saying if he really didn't have that one blow-up start really against the Braves, he'd have easily all-star numbers that he's really deserving, and he has the stuff for it. Went into that. And then that was about it with Skip, really those 2 things. And then he talked about Garrett Cooper, too. We talked about, or Isaac asked him a question about Cooper really striking out, and he really felt it was he's kind of just after being off the IL, it was more of just timing. That's his issue that he feels right now. That's what Skip feels the issue with Cooper is, just the timing on everything, just coming back from the IL and getting readjusted to the timing of playing baseball again. But he feels he can really get things going once he figures out the timing. Besides that, that's really all I've noticed today. Nothing too special going on here. Should be an exciting first game. looking to get the win with Braxton on the mound. It's the hope.
Yeah.
For anybody that's a little confused about Reynolds, it's lower back inflammation, and he'd been dealing with it the past couple of days. So it was going to be, there was kind of signs that he was going to go on the IL. He's not doing it just to duck the Marlins, which he did last year. He went on the IL very suddenly last year when they came to Miami, when the rumors were flying. No rumors this time around with his extension in place, but lower back inflammation keeping him out.
Yeah, and anything else you want to mention, Nick? Maybe any interviews, anything? What can we expect? And maybe also how the Marlins looked in BP. Were any balls flying today?
Oh, yeah. I mean, Arise caught me by surprise after his first round. He smoked when it hit off the second deck in right field. I was like, all right, that was surprising, just random. But everyone's been really excited today for some reason. In the dugout, they were, even after the 2 losses in a row, they were really excited today. Archie Bradley was making everybody laugh. Him and Fortes. Fortes was showing, who was it? Tanner Scott had a frame pitches, which was fun and interesting. And Arise everyone seemed really high energy today, which was good. So looking into the series, they seem all in good spirits. Everyone seems fun and looks ready to go today, which is a good thing.
Yeah. Do you have Isaac anywhere with you?
No.
Let's do it. Of course, Isaac's buying T-shirts at the gift shop, but But yeah, Nick, you put your predictions there. Anything else you want to mention? Maybe also from the Pirates side, how they're looking. I know they're coming off 9 games in a row, losing, not having Brian Reynolds. Probably the only guys really worth a note to really look at. Guys like Henry Davis, #1 overall pick, getting called up a few days ago. You have Carlos Santana, who's having almost a resurgence. And then you also have guys like Jack Swinski, who's close to 20 home runs so far.
Yeah, I think that's the exciting thing for them. I think they're feeling in hopefully better spirits with Henry Davis, looking to get excited with him. So I think that's a real boost for them, that they feel a little bit better. They don't seem to be walking around all sad or anything. I feel like they're excited to have him up, and it's a little boost of energy to hopefully get them going. But we'll see.
All right. Stay tuned for coverage with Nick, with Isaac. We'll hear their prediction video later. So stay tuned for that, Nick. Thank you again for joining us.
All right. I'll see you guys.
All right. So, yeah, getting into that series. Before we get into that, again, let's talk a little bit about this previous one with the Blue Jays, because not go all Marlins way. And I think we do have to talk about that second game, the game with Yuri just absolutely dominating that game against the Blue Jays, and Yusei Kikuchi doing the same here. Takes, what do you see from Yuri, and why does he need to be on the Marlins every single day and for the rest of the season?
Oh, my beautiful baby boy, my little baby goat, my sweet little prince. I love him so much. But listen, it's funny. We talked about the pitching depth like 5 minutes ago, right? And we talked about you pulled up my tweet calling everyone ass and injured. Like you Max Meyer hurt, Eater hurt, Sixto's never coming back. Like it's one of those things where I do not blame them in the slightest for having caution with Eddie Perez, right? What's his career high in innings in the minors? Like 70, 80, 90 innings, I think. He's never thrown in triple-digit innings, right? So it's something where there is a 100, and this kid's pumping like 100 miles per hour. Like, it's not like he's just like up there like a soft tosser painting the corners. Like, no, he's painting the corners while pumping gas, dude. So I don't blame them for not wanting to like push it. And in an ideal world, Trevor Rogers is good and Johnny Cueto isn't useless, and we can afford to like send Yuri back down and maybe call him up to be like the Dontrell of 2003, where he comes in like out of the bullpen or something in late innings or something like that. That would be the ideal situation. But we've been cornered where it's like, okay, wait, we're 9 games above 500. We hold a playoff spot. A lot of our pitchers are bad, so we're trying to hold on to whoever's been good, which is Braxton Garrett and Eddie Perez. Luzardo's been inconsistent. Sandy's been bad. Rogers suffered another setback. I think he's throwing again soon. I don't know. It's one of those things where
you're relying on Brian Hoeing for guys like that.
Exactly. Shout out Brian Hoeing, by the way. That's a dog. I mean, he's just coming super clutch. But like Eddie Perez, you need him. Like, it's not like you're not talking about like he's a really good 20-year-old. Like, dude, he's been one of the best pitchers in the league since he's been called up. Like, it's not a like. If he was qualified in innings, he would be #1 in ERA, and I think it's like not really close. Like it's he's really, really, really good, and he looks super comfortable. And this is something I talked about with my dad, right? Because my dad's very old school. So if a pitcher doesn't go like 7+ innings, he sucks. It doesn't matter what he does, right? And he was talking about Eldy Perez only going like 5 innings, and he was like, "Yeah, but I'd like to see him go deeper into games." And I was like, "Dad, but like they have like a hard cap on pitches, right?" And I told him that, and he started to understand. And I told him how I think that this is going to make him a better pitcher in the long run. Like he has that Sandy kind of like psychopath energy in his head where he wants to go deeper into games. He doesn't like coming out in the 4th and 5th inning. So he's trying to figure out a way where he can go as deep into games as he can while only throwing 80 pitches, 85 pitches. And you saw in the first couple starts, it was like 4 innings, 5 innings, and he was getting up there in the pitch count. And the last 2 starts, he's been super efficient. Like he's learning to attack hitters while still missing bats. And that, like I said, I think this in the long run will help him be a better pitcher. As far as the shutdown thing goes, and he needs to stay in the rotation, I mean, if he gets hurt, we're gonna go crazy. And if they take him out of the rotation to protect him, we're gonna go crazy. So it's one of those like Doctor Strange, like there's only one possibility, and it's like you got to keep him, and you got to hope that he's prepared for like 130, 140, 150 innings of major league pitching, and that's if we sneak into the playoffs, you could be talking about a lot more. So it's a tricky situation, and I do not blame them in the slightest. It's a great situation. I mean, you're talking about a 21-year-old future Cy Young Award winner who looks great, but at the same time, you are trying to protect this kid from hurting himself. So it's a tricky situation, but I'm not going to complain if I get to watch him pitch more. So
Yeah. As you touched on, what's tricky is that he's getting better. He's better like now than he was a month ago. A month ago, like you could see some signs of inexperience when he first came up that he was getting maybe a little lucky, and those are gone. Like his last 2 starts have been his best 2 starts in terms of him just dominating the game. Just a very quick Johnny Cueto update. He's pitching right now, AAA Jacksonville. Ooh. He allowed a 400-foot home run to Luke Williams. So that is your Johnny Cueto. That is your Johnny Cueto update. That is your quick Johnny Cueto update.
What was the exit velo on that?
Let's.
I mean, I need to dissect this.
Only 98. Only 98. Oh. You know, it was a convincing home run, but nothing crushed.
Oh my God, he's so bad. We can't. You can't. You have to pull in Avisario Garcia and just let him go missing or something. You can't. This guy cannot come back and pitch in this rotation.
For anybody interested. Yeah, he is in his 3rd inning of work. He's expected to go 5 or about 75 pitches. We'll see.
But his was a 1-year deal, right?
1 year and a club option for next year. So they have to buy out the club option.
We could talk about that.
Yeah.
But, you know, we are talking about pitching. The Marlins are 9 games over 500. And hopefully, you know, trade deadline, knock on wood. You look at their schedule the rest of the way. Pirates, Red Sox, Braves. Some easy ones there. The Rockies relatively should win that. The Tigers and then the Phillies haven't really been that hot. We are talking about pitching. Are there any names you guys like that the Marlins should buy? Nonetheless, should be buyers. Could be pitcher, outfielder, catcher. Are there any names out there you guys want to see as a Marlin?
You guys want to take this first? I mean,
well, we've touched on a couple of catchers on Fish on First. The first one that I brought up like a week and a half ago is Yan Gomes. And then the problem with that is that the Cubs have been almost undefeated since then. So now all of a sudden you don't know if they're going to be sellers one way or another. And Kevin was really, really big on Ivan Herrera, who is that catcher, AAA Cardinals. He's putting up monster numbers, but he's blocked over there because of Wilson Contreras and they like their backup there. So he would be available, but that's the guy that you don't know what you're getting the rest of this year, looking to the future. But we are reaching a point where they have to start thinking more seriously about a rental starter, because you just, even if Cueto makes it back up in the big leagues a week and a half from now, he's probably going to suck and you're probably going to DFA him. Like they can like string this along as they want to, but by the time the deadline gets here and we know that Perez's innings are going to be pretty close to exhausted at that point, I'll just say generally that is one thing that's becoming increasingly like legitimate possibility is them renting a veteran starter of some kind. Nobody not like fighting the Johnny Cueto mold, somebody a little bit younger. That's where I would like put my attention right now. I don't think I have a particular name in mind at this exact moment, if you think about it, because certainly there's not a whole lot of options except for, I guess, one that I watched some pitch either yesterday or the day before. He's a former Marlins prospect, Trevor Williams, he's under contract next year as well. So it's a decent amount of money to take on. I just feel like we're in a new era with the schedule format and with all the wild cards where I think intra division trades are going to be a little bit more common than before. So Trevor Williams is on the Nationals. He's got a 4.14 ERA. He's just a really prototypical back end starter, but he's going to be available, I think, because the Nats stink overall. So I think he'd be available. He seems like a really good clubhouse guy. He's only 31, even though he's been around a while. That's just one name that pops in my mind on the rotation depth conversation.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
I mean, it's going to be an interesting month, depending on, like, I don't know when Edward Cabrera is even scheduled to start, like, throwing again or anything. I'm assuming it's not really that soon because it was 15-day. Like, it's not like a definite solution in the long run. But I mean, Brian Hoeing looked really good last time out, right? Like, I think we all agree on that. And it's going to be an interesting month because there still is enough time towards the deadline where you can trot Hoeing out there a couple more times and see how he does. But there's enough there with Hoeing. Like, he's got a lot of movement on his pitches, great off-speed stuff, where, like, maybe he's just, like, a good back-end guy, like, if we're lucky enough, right? Like, Braxton Garrett was a guy I was ready to, like, DFA, and then he's turned into our best pitcher this year. So maybe they find something with Hoeing where he could just be a guy that gives you 6 solid innings. I think trading for a starter at this deadline, even though Eli, like, you're right, like, it does seem like it's becoming more and more of a necessity. But, like, after all the years of me talking shit to other teams' fan bases about our pitching depth, to have to go out and trade for Trevor Williams, it would really just break my heart because, like, that's not where I imagined we'd be this year. But it's turned out to be that way. You know, I've been like there's a meme of Young Thug like on the computer with his producer, and it's a really funny one. Yeah. But like that's what I've been doing the past like 2 weeks at looking at prospects that are maybe blocked by other players at the major league level, or like anything, looking for players that we could trade for. And it is a little tough because like Craig's been saying the past couple of days, like all these teams are kind of close. Like it's not really that separated yet. And I mean, look, a week ago I thought the Pirates were like gonna win the Central, and then they've rattled off like 9 straight losses. So I mean, a lot can change, a lot will change from here till the deadline. So that's why it's hard to really talk about specific players. Maybe there's a player at the deadline that says, "Dude, trade me, please." Like Soto wasn't at the beginning of last season. I didn't think Soto would get traded. And then at the deadline, he was traded to the Padres. So it's hard right now. Obviously, like Elias Diaz is one that comes up a lot in these trade discussions. I don't know, like it's. I was excited when we traded for Stallings, and trading for isn't Elias Diaz like 31 years old already? You know, like he could come here and just like turn back into a pumpkin. Like it's a really hard thing to trade for catchers. You know, I'm happy with the way Nick Fortes has been playing. I rattled that off yesterday. I tweeted out how he's been in his last 30 games. He's been solid, but I don't know. Like even the ones I got excited for are playing. Like every time I get excited about someone we could trade for, they just turn into like fucking Gene Segura. Like Tim Anderson I got excited for, and he's been like the worst player in baseball. So yeah. I don't know. I'm not going to get excited. I'm not going to give any names because I know I'm going to give a name and they're going to be like ass in like 45 minutes. So I'm not going to say anything. At
least Tim Anderson had the decency to be ass before he got traded here.
Yeah.
That was nice of him. I do like the Elias Diaz trade though, because yeah, it's kind of a similar situation as Stallings, but I feel like Stallings was traded here as more of a long-term piece. So the fact that he's performing so poorly hurts even more. Elias Diaz, off the top of my head, I don't know how long he's under contract for, but if you're making just a playoff push and you're hoping to just roll the dice on a 3-month rental, if that 3-month rental doesn't go well, that's obviously very disappointing, but it doesn't anchor you the way that Jacob Stallings has the last couple of years.
Yeah, he's a free agent in 2025. He signed a contract through 24, 3 years, 14 and a half. So not really crazy, anything crazy there. But you look at MLB.com just to give some potential trade targets. They released an article and some guys that could fit. Obviously not sexy names. One name Kevin's going to love. He's probably hearing it right now. Jace Peterson, who's been hot as of late since June, end of May. And then you have Jaime Candelario, which maybe could be something. He's been really good for the Nationals. Again, Eli mentioned trading between division might be something we see more of. Candelario has been really good so far with the Nationals. And if you want a pitcher, it's going to cost a lot, but it could be the best trade pitcher on the market, Lucas Giolito. He's a free agent at the end of the season. Definitely going to wear a new uniform after he's traded, but that could potentially be a Marlin. Maybe just thought, again, the price on that is going to be astronomical, but that's something that the Marlins could do.
I have PTSD of like rental pitchers for the Marlins, with like Andrew Kashner and all these other guys. Like I just feel like it just hurts my heart. Lucas Giolito's gonna come here and just be garbage. Like that's the way you could tell me any pitcher they could trade for. They could trade for Shohei, and they might as well just make him DH because if he pitches, he's gonna be garbage as well. Like there's no one that's gonna come here and pitch well. That's just the way I think with Marlins rentals.
But we are gonna get some good pitching. We'll see tonight between the Marlins and the Pirates. But before that, Eli, do we have an ad to play for the break?
Of course. Always do. Back in 30 seconds.
And we are back now to give this series preview between the Marlins and the Pittsburgh Pirates. Pittsburgh Pirates coming off 9 games in a row losing streak. The Marlins 2-game losing streak to the Blue Jays, so someone's going to eventually get a win here. And then you look at the Pirates and the Marlins, especially tonight. This is probably the best pitching matchup of the series. You have Mitch Keller, who's having a almost Cy Young type season for the Pirates. And then you have Braxton Garrett, where you take out that Atlanta Braves start, and everyone will tell you this guy is an all-star. So let's go ahead and talk about this first game. Eli, Braxton Garrett, Mitch Keller, what do you want to see, and what should the Marlins expect from Mr. Keller?
He had a pretty incredible stretch earlier this year, and I think overall he's an improved pitcher over who he used to be. He's a complete pitcher. He's just really well-rounded. This is who he was supposed to be when he was an early round draft pick initially. And this is a guy that for the previous several years, he'd been one of the more confounding guys in all of baseball because he was relatively healthy and he was just terrible. He was either getting hit around or he just wasn't missing as many bats as they thought he would just based on the quality of his stuff. And as you see, he is a savant darling or StatCast darling. It's all red in terms of the quality of contacts he allows, his swing and miss, and he's gotten the walks under control. And he's one of the few pitchers outside of Sandy who's thrown a complete game this year. This is a career year for him. This is by far in this series opener. This is going to be the toughest test that they have to this point in his career. Overall, just a really good pitcher. And they kind of need him to be good just because the Pirates offense has been garbage for the length of this 9-game losing streak. I think they're averaging fewer than 3 runs per game over that sample, even though they're just facing other crappy National League Central teams. So coming from that bad division to go on this losing streak while playing only those other divisional rivals, I think there speaks to how badly things are going for them. As we've already touched on with Brian Reynolds not even involved in this series, that is the big deficiency with the Pirates. Not so much the pitching, it's more so about they just can't put runs on the board right now.
Yeah, and now looking a little bit on the Marlins lineup, we have Tony Gwynn Jr., Luis Arraez, Soler, DLC. Alex, well, what do you see from the Marlins lineup? Anything that intrigues you? Anything that maybe that you like, that you don't like? What's really caught your eye here?
No one specifically. I just think this is a classic measuring stick game because off the top of my head, I can't remember the last time they played a pitcher whose form is as good as Mitch Keller's right now. We've seen the Marlins obviously just within the Blue Jays series put up 11 runs one night and then get shut out the next night. I think we like to believe that this offense is a little bit better than it was last year, at least in terms of getting timely hits. So I'm excited tonight just to see how they match up against the pitcher who's actually been good of late. I do want to see a little bit more out of Nick Fortes. I know he's been doing a lot better as of late. I'm hoping that continues. Joey Wendell's been hot lately. I'm hoping to see more pop again from Jorge Soler. I'd like to see at least one 5-hit game from Arias this week, which I think is not something that you should ever count on. But this is the first time I've ever counted on that, and I hope we see something like that from him today.
Is it more likely a Luis Arias 5-hit game or Braxton Garrett throws 6 innings?
Ooh, that's a good one. I think with the way that the Pirates' offense has looked lately, I think Braxton Garrett gets through 6, maybe even 7. It would be nice to give the bullpen a little break going into this 4-game series.
Yeah, with these lineups takes, I can ask you the same thing here on the Marlins side. Who do you like? What don't you like? And why can't we just multiply Luis Arias and have him play at every part of the lineup?
I wish we could, man. Luis Arias is he really is like I made fun of my dad for being old school, but I myself is kind of old school as well. Like I love myself a good old weak contact slap hitter like Luis Arias, and I love how much he upsets everyone else. Like I can't see Luis Arias get a hit without a Braves fan just crying on Twitter for like 2 hours, like talking about why he's not good. I know he's an all-star. I know he leads the league in batting average. I know his OPS is great. I know he's played great defense, but I'm telling you, he's not good. Like that they just do that after every 45 seconds. I look and there's some like Cobb County Braves fan here telling you why Luis Arias sucks, and it's like, shut up, dude. You don't know what you're saying. Anyways, for this series. You know me, guys. I'm a moron, and I go by like moron analytics. Like that's kind of what I do, and I'm nervous as fuck. Like it's the Pirates. I remember, I think it was 2 years ago. I don't know if it's 2021. There was a series against the Pirates where it was one of those, this kind of like a barometer type series where like the Pirates were so bad. I was like, we should handle business here, and I know we got the dog shit kicked out of us. Like I don't know if it was 2 of 3 or swept or what it was, but it was just embarrassing. It was soul crushing. And this year, like it's like Brian Reynolds is out. The Pirates are on a 9-game losing streak. The Marlins look pretty good. Yeah, they lost 2 straight, but they've been really good recently. All signs point towards us handling business here, but I'm not going to say that we are because I know how this goes when I do. So, with that being said, the lineup, I mean, I'm excited to see Jeezy back in the lineup. I love Jeezy when he's going against a righty. I know Mitch Keller's been fantastic. I actually like Mitch Keller a lot. But everything else, man, I mean, it's your normal Marlins lineup. You know, I'm tired of seeing Garrett Cooper. I've been very loud about that. And I think he's similar to kind of like what I said about Brian Hoeing having like a month to like prove whether he can be like a rotation guy or not. Garrett Cooper, buddy, I know a lot of people, shout out Sean Barrett. He's dying on his shield every day for my man Garrett Cooper, and I respect it. I really do. But God, man, it hasn't been just this year. Like if you look at his numbers post All-Star game last year, he was just as bad. So it's been a very long time of Garrett Cooper being a bad baseball player. And when you're trying to win baseball games, you don't want bad baseball players. So he needs to have himself a good series. He needs to really get back on track to prove he's worth keeping past this trade deadline. Other than that, I'm excited. I'm excited that we have our ace on the mound. I'm excited that Sandy doesn't have to pitch this series. So, I mean, all signs, like I said, point towards a very good series for us. But I'm not going to say anything concrete because then people are going to like screen record this and call me a piece of shit. So
I want to just agree with you that you're dead on about Cooper and him being such an important player to watch in the near future. Because if he keeps playing like this over the next month, like you don't forget about trading him away. The question is whether you even have him on your roster in August and September. If he's this bad, if he only plays first base and he's hitting this poorly, what's the big difference from even last year is that he's striking out so much. He's so hyper aggressive. He's swinging. I looked this up today because I'm probably going to write an article breaking down why he's so bad. He's swinging at the first pitch about 40% of the time, which is so far and beyond his career norms. That is like Avi Garcia territory. It's putting him in bad counts or he's making bad contact. And the thing is, he's striking out more than ever. He's walking a lot less than ever as well. So he's just relying on hitting line drives to the right places. He's actually hitting home runs at like one of the highest rates of his career. But that's not saying a whole lot because he's never been a huge home run guy. Overall, this has just been really disappointing from him. He had that little injury, but he's been back for that for a long time, and there's just been no improvement. So he's been quietly one of the more disappointing players on the team. Thank goodness for Yuli Gurriel being as solid as he has been because they've been able to kind of cover that up for the most part.
And meanwhile, Troy Johnston's about to turn like 46 years old, and he's going against like 16-year-olds in AA with like an OPS of like 900 for his career in the minors. So, I mean, yeah, every time Gary Cooper strikes out, it hurts a little bit more knowing that there's someone like that just waiting for an opportunity.
Listen, the party we're going to have at Lone Depot Park when Troy Johnston makes his start at 32 years old, it's going to be one for the ages, all right?
It's going to be like when that Greenberg guy got one at bat and we all had posters for it. Like that's what it feels like it's going to be like.
I mentioned Avi, and I think it's something I want to mention. I had talks with other people about this. When Avi comes back, when Jazz comes back, they're paying Avi this astronomical amount of money, meaning that they do have to play him. They do have to get some type of value out of that money. De La Cruz has been streaky, but he's been one of the best players in the outfield for the Marlins. Jesus Sanchez, you need him out there even with his defense. Jonathan Davis, odd man out, Garrett Hampson, but I just mentioned Jazz, Avi, Jesus Sanchez, Brian De La Cruz. That's way too many. That's one extra. Well, who's the odd man out in that situation?
I think you're getting ahead of yourself with Avi. It's a good time to talk about Jazz, though, because this is probably going to be the last preview show we do before he returns. All indications are that he's going to finish out this weekend in Jacksonville, and then he's going to be back for the Red Sox series. He's on a rehab assignment. He's today 1 for 2 with 2 RBIs and a walk in center field. Yeah, he's going to be back the next series. They're going to have to make a move then. And to me, I think it's a fairly simple move. It's going to be sending down Garrett Hampson because he has options, and they don't really use him very much in the first place. So that's going to be pretty simple. And yeah, from that standpoint, they finally have a real backup center fielder on the roster at the same time, and Jonathan Davis. They keep winning games when Davis is in there. Realistically, he profiles best as like a 4th, 5th outfielder that's at the end of your bench. And that'd be just fine. I think in the short term, they're all right. With Avi, he's not even doing baseball activities yet. And
take your time, Avi. Take your time.
Yeah. I think I've reached a point where I'm starting to believe they're not going to force Avi back onto the roster. They're just not. If other injuries pile up and they have no better options, then they'll give him a shot. But I'm getting like this feeling they don't want to cut him. They have to pay him the money anyway. If he's not like a poisonous influence around the organization, they could keep him around the organization doing rehab. I'm like coming along. I think they're kind of coming along with everybody else that he doesn't make the team better, at least not directly on the field. So I'm not even going to start worrying about his return unless he actually begins another rehab assignment. We're still multiple weeks away, I think, from him even being in the conversation.
Do you guys remember early in the year, I believe around FanFest, Isaac took a picture of Avi? I think he posted on Twitter saying, "This guy looks incredible. This is even odd year Avi Garcia. We're gonna get our money's worth with this," and it's the same thing.
Yeah, and I want to apologize because I had a hand in that too. I wrote a preview article on Avi Garcia, and I had 2 entire paragraphs on his weight loss journey. And it wasn't until after I had already posted it that I found tweets from like 2021 of like, I think it was the White Sox at the time. White Sox beat reporters in 2021 saying, "Oh my God, Avi Garcia looks so much better. He's lost so much weight." So this wasn't even, and then I think I found tweets from 2019 as well. This was not the first time that he got chunky and then lost weight again. He really fooled all of us, including me. So I want to apologize for that.
It is.
Look
there
at him,
it is.
man.
That's the tweet.
Look at him. If his shit doesn't work out with the Marlins, he could do like Nutrisystem commercials or something. Because I mean, the guy looks great. He's a handsome guy too. He's a millionaire. I mean, God bless him. God bless him, Professor Finesser. He really made it work out for himself. But like, I mean, look, dude, it's the weather's beautiful around the world. Go take a nice long vacation and like call in on the team, Zoom calls, like you're a Make-A-Wish kid, and talk to the team and motivate them. But like, I don't need to see you play baseball. I'm just being honest.
Look,
like,
at this stage in your career, yeah, you're being told, "Hey, we're going to pay you millions of dollars." You don't have to play baseball, but you do still get to live in Miami as a member of the Miami Marlins. It worked out for everyone, it seems.
Yeah. I mean, look, I wish it never ended up like this, but you know what, man? Take your time. Look, do what Kobe did. Kobe used to go visit like doctors in Germany to rehab. Like, go to Germany. Maybe there's a doctor that can help with your back, and they'll recommend like 4 years off and opting out of your contract. I don't know, but like, Just don't play baseball this year, please.
Speaking of guys playing baseball, we have here from Joseph talking about Gene Segura. If Alex Carver were here, he will go on another rant. I think Eli has the audio of that on Gene Segura. But what do the Marlins do with him? I mentioned options on the trade targets. Candelario, third baseman. Jace Peterson could play second, could play short, could play third base. And we're not talking about Gene Segura. If you want to look at something similar, a team that's winning, that didn't think they were going to win, you look at the Reds DFAing Will Myers after paying him $8 million. Gene Segura is getting 2 years, but AAV is the exact same. What do the Marlins do with Segura? Not saying DFA him, but what should the Marlins do with him? What is the outlook for him?
I think with him, I haven't quite reached the point of giving up yet. Also, because they have guys that could play third base right now in Birdie and in Wendell and even in Hampson. But I mean, even of Wendell, I think Wendell is the best of those players, but he's also a pending free agent, even if things go kind of well. If things do go well, then he's actually going to be probably just as expensive as Segura in order to retain him. So with Segura, I'm not quite given up yet. It's been immensely disappointed. A lot of that's just because he's pounding the ball into the ground again and again and again. That's a little bit more fixable than some of these other typical struggling vets. And maybe this time off will let him do that. I think the clear thing is that when he comes back, they shouldn't force him to be an everyday player again. That just doesn't make sense. Like, use him against lefties. He's been a really good hitter against lefties throughout his career, but just platoon him when he gets back. And if he doesn't have results in that role, once he does, then you begin to have some really dark conversations with him. We haven't really reached that Avi point or that Cueto point with him, just because he has a really durable track record. Once he gets back from this minor injury, at least you could expect him to be available. Yeah, with him, we'll reevaluate it as it goes on. That is a big question though, because third base as a whole, they don't really have a great idea of where they're going with that beyond this season.
Yeah, and with there and Segura and everything going on, Alex. Well, in your case, with Segura there, is there anything you would do with him? Maybe don't rush him back. Well, what are your thoughts on Segura overall, especially this season?
I kind of had the same idea as Eli, where I do think he has a more consistent track record. Like with Avi Garcia, he had some good years, but he also had some really bad years. He wasn't always consistent. Gene Segura has always been a consistent ball player. I also think that he adds value to the team. I know this is very cliche and corny, but he is a leader, according to other people in the clubhouse that I've spoken to. And the people that have told me this like unprovoked. Like, I'm not asking about Segura. I'm talking about just some of the newcomers. How excited are you to play with them? And I've been told by like 3 or 4 people, they're like, Arise is a great hitter, but Gene Segura is a great leader in the clubhouse. So I do think he has intangible value. I do think the part that I really agree with Eli on was when he comes back, he can't be an everyday player. I do think you have better options, but I think that he's not so terrible that you shouldn't at least have him take some at-bats and see if he can reconjure some of the skills that he had that brought him here in the first place.
Yeah. And to go on and finish this series preview before we get into our lovely predictions, Takes had mentioned earlier about Luzardo and his inconsistencies. He is starting tomorrow, Friday. He has been super inconsistent. We saw him, go lights out against the Royals, and then after that, just really fall off a cliff there. What do you guys have to see from Luzardo? What does he have to do to bring out what we saw from him earlier this year?
I mean, all you can say about him is that even when he's bad, like, he's not awful when things go horribly wrong for him. Like, there is a floor that he has as a pitcher where he's going to get a certain number of strikeouts no matter how off he is, just because his stuff is so filthy, and he has like 3 different pitches that he could definitely get whiffs on with him. It's been a little bit underwhelming because I thought he could just be the same guy he was last year over a larger sample. I thought that looked really legit, where he was a 3 ERA guy instead of a 4 ERA guy. And so that adds up, and that's been part of the difference as to, why this rotation as a whole hasn't been quite what we wanted to yet. You just take it start by start with him. We'll see how he does against his Pirates team. If he has a bad outing against his Pirates team, then I'd be a little bit more concerned with him. But yeah, I mean, overall, don't have a strong feeling one way or another. His stuff looks fine. I'd say just his slider hasn't been quite as nasty as it was last year. Like at times last year, it felt like one of the nastier breaking balls in baseball. And this year, it's kind of on or off. You know, sometimes it's the reason. I think, especially in that Mariner start, it's kind of the reason why he got shelled. And that's been surprising. But overall, yeah, I think he's going to have a better second half than first half with him.
This is hilarious. Johnny Cueto just gave up another home run. oh, two more. And a single.
Oh my goodness!
Williams.
Yeah, he had settled down for an inning, and then he allowed. Oh boy! And I don't even recognize these guys. Like the first one was at least somebody that played in the bigs and Luke Williams, but these other two, who are these guys? Hoy Park and Dominic Miro.
Those are MLB The Show names after 8 years on the franchise.
Calm down.
Yeah, Johnny Cueto has allowed 6 runs, all earned in 3 2/3 innings. We will keep you updated.
Wow.
He might need rehab from his rehab. He might need to go to Beloit.
There are so many guys on that Jacksonville team that I'd love to see get a chance before the deadline so that we can like see what we actually need. Like Dane Myers is 3 for 3 already today with 4 RBIs. And then Xavier Edwards is doing like his own Luis Arias impression where he's already 2 for 2 and he's getting like close to 400. And he's instead of have to watch Garrett Hampson like roll over on ground balls to third. So I mean it's that part frustrates me always, but I won't go on at length about that.
We're talking catchers, and there is a guy who plays catch who just got the call up to AAA. He's a fan favorite on Marlins Twitter, Mr. Paul McIntosh.
Number 1 prospect.
Everyone's favorite guy. You will not hear one bad word talked about him at all. Twitter, through people on the organization, everybody loves Paul McIntosh. Is this someone we could see, Takes mention, bring up at all? Put him at catcher, DH for if you want him to hit. Catcher, you could put him there if you want to have him tested out. Is that something we could see at all? The Marlins could, if they're that desperate for help hitting wise and catching, just put PMAC there. Look at the Pirates; they have like 5 catchers on their roster right now.
I mean, look, what did I say? I do more analytics, right? And at the very least, Paul McIntosh will make me like feel something, Like look, let Nick Fortes catch 4 out of 5 pitchers and let Paul McIntosh get in there once for like a pity like catcher performance. We know he can hit nukes. We know he's strong. We know he's been a good hitter in the minors. Everyone always says his defense is atrocious, but I mean, like, is it that bad? Like, is it that bad that I'm gonna be like, oh my god, I don't want to watch this? I don't know. I genuinely do not know because I don't like get to watch him every day. Like I'm sure other people do. I'm sure Alex watches them. Like so it's hard for me to say how bad his defense is. Like Alfaro reached a point where it was like painful to watch him play catcher, right? And we were like, dude, get out. Like you're not even fun defensively, you're not fun offensively, and that's kind of where I draw the line. Stallings has reached that point for me where it's like he came with a pass ball stat, and I was like, all right, dude, it was cute, but you had a 700 OPS in the Pirates. Where's that? I would love to see Paul McIntosh up here personally. Like, I don't know. I'm sure he is as bad as advertised on defense, but if he comes up and hits a nuke, like I'm just gonna forget about the 3 pass balls he had in an inning. So I don't know. Like I would love to see him, but look, I've also been beating the drum a little bit for Austin Allen, but someone told me Austin Allen is not that good on defense either. So I don't know. We just don't have good defensive catchers anywhere. At one point, we might just call Will Banfield to play defense and be a backup catcher. I don't know. At least he's hot.
Eli, maybe you could talk to us a little bit about PMAC's defensive skills. I know they tried him a little bit in the outfield, or he played last season all catcher at all. It's not really working with Jacob Stallings. Is this something that the Marlins, a pity start and they're throwing with Brian Hoying since you want to put him with Sandy, Brax, or Luzardo, put him there with an opener type guy?
He's a bad defender. There's just no way to slice it. Like he can't. He has. I don't want to be derogatory. He has a bad arm. He can't throw really. He just can't control the running game whatsoever. He's improved as a pitch framer, but in terms of receiving and blocking, that's another weakness in his game. If you could use him in really certain matchups, I guess you could use him. I guess again with someone like it's really hard because this rotation. The thing is, this Marlins pitching staff as a whole, they have really nasty stuff. There's a lot of balls in the dirt. There's a lot of receiving, and there are guys that do take a while to get to home plate. That obviously would be just as bad a combination as Stallings is with them.
What about Austin Allen, Eli? Like, is he like bad on defense, or is he like serviceable?
He's a little better. I just don't think he's going to get hits. Like, he has power, and I like his framing a lot. He's also really bad at controlling the running game. I don't think he's going to hit. Like, he's played quite a bit in the big leagues the last few years, and the hit tool just isn't there. Like, AAA this year is a very hitter-friendly league, and for him to be like hovering at 200 and dipping below 200 at times, the hit tool just isn't there. And that PMAC obviously has that hit tool. That's why people like him so much, and that's why I do think he could get to the big leagues at some time this year, because that's the most important aspect of it. The reality is why we keep talking about catching trade targets is because these internal options, there's not a single one of them that you can really feel great about.
I don't know. I mean, I always hold out hope, I guess, because like I remember Nick Fortes, there were some people talking about moving him back to like second base at some point because his defense was like that bad.
Right.
And it's like he's actually been pretty good defensively. Like you obviously have the block ball stat that he's like leads the league in, and it looks like he's improved as a framer. You know, obviously throwing people out, like every time I read the stat, it's like runners are stealing at like astronomical rates this year. Like, so it's hard to really tell if he's not good at throwing runners out. And then anytime there's a runner on first, you hear Nelly on the broadcast talking about how our pitchers have the longest windups in the history of baseball, so it's hard to throw anyone out. So I don't know. It's kind of weird to like criticize our players for not throwing runners out when it is true that like guys like Eddie Perez, Edward Cabrera, Sandy, they don't like have quick moves to home. So it is hard to like pin the blame on them for that. But I don't know. I hold out hope. I need Paul McIntosh to get better on defense because I would love to see him and Fortes would be like a really sick duo for me. I would make me very happy.
We'll definitely
Eli shit all over that.
I feel you. No, I feel where you are right there.
I think with that we're gonna go strange prediction. So Eli, could we cue Kim Ang talking about us?
This is prediction time.
It's time.
That's what Kim's gonna say on August 1st. Okay, it's time. It's gonna turn on trade deadline mode. But as we go here for series predictions, as always for predictions, you're gonna tell us who wins the series by how many games. But remember, for this one, it's 4 games, so you could say a series split. MVP can be from either team, a hitter, a batter. As we are looking here, we see Savenzo series split, Connor Joe. That's definitely a strange one there. But I think with everything that could happen, we have Yuri Perez, who was a series MVP in the last one. A lot of 3-1s, a lot of splits, and we even see some sweeps, which maybe could happen. But with the Marlins' luck, it's maybe a little iffy there. But we have
press box predictions here from Isaac and Nick.
God,
I've not previewed this, but they seem to did a really concise job on this.
Series predictions from Lone Depot Park. Nick, intern, go ahead.
I'm going split, and then Luis Rise, MVP.
I'm also going to go with the split, and I'm going to say Yuri Perez on Sunday start. He's going to be dominant again.
I'm shocked that Isaac has a hat that isn't black, and especially wearing it forward. That's the most incredible part of that whole video. One Yuri start just changes a man, and we're gonna go here for series predictions. Usually we have Kevin start, but he's still stuck learning multiplication. But we're gonna go straight with Alex K.
All right, I'm going to go with a split, and I'm going to go with I'm going to say that Jesus Luzardo has a very good game this weekend. I'm going to go with him as the MVP.
All right. Eli.
The Brian Reynolds injury pushed me over the positivity edge. Instead of a split, I have Marlins winning 3 out of 4 and give me Nick Fortes series MVP.
Ooh. Okay. I think I'm going to go a little bit different than that. I have the Marlins winning this series 3-1, especially with their Reynolds injury, really the difference maker there. And with my MVP, let's go with Brian De La Cruz, because why not? And last, certainly not least, takes.
Listen, I said I wasn't going to do the positivity shit because it always backfires on me. I fucking lied. The Marlins swept this series. And my MVP, I'm surprised no one has picked him. I noticed that the Pirates have like all righty pitchers this series. Give me my boy Jesus Sanchez, man. Jeezy's going to be the MVP of this series. The Marlins are going to sweep, and we're going to be back at 13 games above 500 going against the Red Sox with Jazz back in the lineup. Vibes are going to be high. It's a different year. Jeezy MVP, sweep, suck on that. Sorry if I can't say that.
No, you could say all that. That's perfect.
Suck on that shit then.
Yeah, Jeezy's going to go 6 for 13 with 6 bombs this series.
Yeah, right.
But I could have said it any better myself. For myself, Daniel, for Eli, Alex, for Takes, for Intern Nick, for Isaac at the ballpark. This is FOF Live presented by La Pop. Always go fish.